It's almost comical in a tragic way. I seriously suspect that the exact same strategic advisory team in Washington that completely misread Beijing is now running point on their Iran policy. Let's rewind to the trade war last year. Did you see that massive personnel shakeup at the White House? The president essentially purged his entire China advisory team, fired about 400 people in the span of 30 minutes, leaving just a handful of loyalists in charge. Why? Because he realized he had been fed a completely fabricated narrative. These so-called China hands had convinced him that the Chinese economy was a house of cards. They promised him that if he slapped on reciprocal tariffs up to 145%, Beijing would capitulate within a week. It's like a gamer boasting. They'll knock out the opponent in the first 3 minutes, only to find themselves completely paralyzed and giving up. Instead of China folding, it was American farmers and enterprises who felt the pain first. And the absurdity of how this information cocoon was built is just staggering. You see, the genuine experts on China, people like John Mearsheimer or Jeffrey Sachs, who actually understand the nuances, are entirely locked out of the White House. Why? Because their realistic assessments contradict the administration's confirmation bias. There's this incredibly flawed logic in Washington right now. If a scholar really understands China, it means they've visited China, maybe lectured at their universities, or received institutional funding for academic exchanges. And in the eyes of these politicians, that immediately brands you as compromised. You're deemed disloyal. So they pushed out the genuine experts and brought in people who have literally never set foot in Beijing or Shanghai. That's your badge of honor now. Total ignorance. They rely on outdated narratives, watching old BBC documentaries with gray filters showing people riding bicycles in the ADS, and they base their foreign policy on that. It's a massive cognitive dissonance. When Westerners actually go there and see a highly developed infrastructure, it literally shatters their worldview because they simply cannot accept that a developing nation has reached that level. But the administration bought their own propaganda, went all in on the trade war, and ended up with skyrocketing inflation, a battered bond market, and a panicked Fed. Now, we are seeing the exact same catastrophic miscalculation with Iran. Somebody in that echo chamber pitched the idea that taking out their supreme leader would cause the entire Iranian regime to instantly collapse. It's profound geopolitical illiteracy. You are dealing with a region where grievances go back millennia. It's the cradle of three major religions with deeply entrenched historical trauma. Do they honestly think that half of Iran is just waiting to embrace Western secularism? When you assassinate a leader who, despite everything, was actually the one willing to negotiate someone who understood the pragmatism of diplomacy, you don't end the resistance. You simply martyr him. You turn him into a unifying symbol. It forces the entire establishment to rally behind the most radical, hardline elements just to legitimize their succession. And think about the geopolitical blowback. If Iran gets pushed to the brink, do you think the Saudis or the Emiratis are just going to cheer from the sidelines? We are already seeing missiles landing near Dubai. The Gulf royals are sitting in their palaces realizing they are in the crossfire. They're panicking, trying to hedge their bets by moving their capital into US dollars, Chinese RMB, or gold. Meanwhile, what does a protracted conflict mean for the West? Global oil and natural gas prices are going to go through the roof. The American consumer is going to get crushed by soaring utility bills and gas prices. The Fed won't be able to cut interest rates, which could trigger a massive wave of defaults in the private credit market. We're talking potential losses of $300 to $400 billion, which would tank the Nasdaq. And ironically, who benefits from this? Russia gets a lifeline with oil jumping back over $100 a barrel. And when the West can no longer afford fossil fuels, they'll have to turn to the world's largest exporter of solar panels, wind turbines, and EVs, which is, of course, China. The sheer incompetence of how they handled the back-channel talks in Oman is mind-boggling. They used an intermediary to gather all the pragmatic, negotiation-willing Iranian officials in one place, and then wipe them out. Now, Washington has to deal exclusively with the extremists. They've locked themselves in an information bubble, and quite frankly, it proves that the world is being run by a spectacular assembly of amateurs.